Hello, everyone, and welcome to UXPin Talks. It's a series of interviews with professionals from the field of UX from all walks of life. They share their thoughts on what UX means to them, teach us, and inspire us. So tune in. On this episode, we're joined by Yuval Keshtcher. Yuval is a UX, UI, and graphic designer who specializes in early-stage startups, branding, and products. He has worked as a designer and product consultant for different types of companies and government offices. He's also the founder of the UX Writing Hub, which is a one-stop shop for online UX writing resources, providing in-depth education for UX writers and product teams from all over the world. Hello, Yuval. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. It's great to have you. Why don't you start by introducing yourself to everyone who's listening and tell us more about yourself?
Hey, Julia. Thank you so much for having me today. So I'm Yuval. I'm a product designer from Israel. I used to be a graphic designer actually a few years ago. Then I did a transition to UX design. Working with different clients and companies, did the transition to a community manager for the UX writing community, because when I was a product designer, or when I used to take much more product design project, I noticed that, and it was like almost 3 years ago, I noticed that people weren't paying attention at all to writers, and there wasn't any writers in product teams, or at least it wasn't that common back then. And I decided to promote this idea that more writers should work in product teams and build a small community for UX writers, because I just wanted one place that will have a lot of content about this topic, so I could learn from it myself and understand those practices and methodologies much better. And the community grew in the past few years. Now we're almost more than 20,000 people in total. And 1 year and a half ago, people used to ask me all the time, what about UX writing training? Is there anything that we can take a look at? Where can we find decent training? So back then there was only books that I could refer to, and after more than 20 people asked me for some kind of a training program, I hired a few people and decided to open UX writing course. Back then it was the first course, and now there is more like that, and that's about it.
Yeah, your journey through UX has been super, super varied. You've worked as a graphic designer, UX designer. At which point did you really start calling yourself a UX writer, a UX content writer? And when did that turn really happen?
So that's a really good question, because I don't call myself a UX writer. I do write, and I am doing content writing as well. The idea is that with the power of the UX writing community, we were able to build the course that we have today, and just learn from the best UX writers in the world, talking with them, interviewing with them, doing massive amount of research to understand what will be the best content to bring to people that want to learn how to be UX writers. So even though today in our company we do take UX writing projects, because I'm not a native English speaker, we have more writers in the team that work as UX writers, and I'm usually in charge of the product design aspects of it. And that's what is UX writing all about, the collaboration between the product designers and the writers to create better experiences in total. So in our company, in the hub, we take projects together for clients, and my position is the product designer, because this is what I do best. And also in our course, every student gets two mentors. One is a UX writer, and the other one is a product designer. So it's two mentors for each student, and I am wearing the hat of the product design mentor, and we have another few writers actually that are taking the hat of the UX writing mentor.
When working with teams on your own gigs in companies,
Yes.
your goal is to redesign, change the way writers and designers collaborate. So,
Right.
from what you've noticed in your courses or during these gigs, projects, is it hard to teach someone UX writing, that skill? Because it's not just about writing, it's not just about using beautiful, sophisticated words. It's also, the point is also to make the copy clear and consistent. And uh, is it a skill someone can acquire right away, or does it really take, is it a long process before someone really gets into the shoes of their end users and understands how the writing is supposed to look on the interface?
All right. So this is a great question. And basically, just like UX design, UX writing is something that you can do the transition to if you are a writer. If you work as a copywriter or content writer, you can easily do the transition to be a UX writer. Now, the differences between the copywriters and the UX writers, or the differences between graphic designers and product designers, are the approaches that they have towards digital products. The UX writer would know how to create user journeys. The UX writer would know how to do user research and user testing, and also how to create content style guides, and how to create consistent voice and tone within digital experience. Now, if we're talking about more, if we're talking about copywriters, so copywriters would have to, their mission would be to sell something, to sell some kind of a product, but the UX writer wouldn't necessarily need to sell. The UX writer would need to create some kind of a guidance to the users and communicating the product in a way that it will be more usable to the end users. So back to your question, you asked if it's difficult to do the transition. You know, life is difficult. We have many professions that evolve and change, and once you practice and get the mindset of the UX writer, which is pretty similar, in my opinion, to the mindset of the product designer, and practice it, of course, I think it's only a matter of experience.
Yeah, because I'm asking that question because with so many roles on the market that we have right now, copywriters, content writers, content editors, technical writers, there has to be that one factor that distinguishes the UX writer from the rest, right? As one might say, hey, it's all about the text. Well, but UX writer, the role of the UX writer is to explain and make the product more user friendly so that people, the users, know what to do, right? What's the next step, what they're
Right.
trying to
And
achieve.
the idea is that the UX writer would see some kind of, I would say, concept, and they could solve it with different approaches, even like different design approaches to different design approach that will communicate the product in a better way. So the UX writer will have to understand different limitations that the digital products have. They will need to speak with the developers on a daily basis and understand that they might have a really great concept conceptually, the UX writers, but the developers would say to them, hey, but have we have limits, so we can't do it like that. And it's also really a
Exactly.
matter of communication. And I think that many copywriters today are not aware to those limitations, not like experienced UX writers. in my opinion.
Exactly. So how early in the product design process should a UX writer jump in?
So that's the thing. There is a huge misconception today that you have some kind of flow, which is and I must correct myself because the industry is getting much better. But the misconception is that you can design everything. You can design the screen and send those screens to a writer and then tell them to put some copy in it and send it to development. But it doesn't work like that. Writers must have a seat at the table from the very beginning of the product design process because their concepts are not less important than the concept of the designers. So they need to have a seat at the table from the very beginning and sketching ideas with content. It's so much easier than sketching ideas with design. So there is something called also the content first approach when you start even like with the content, but it really depends also on the product or the feature or the project that people are working on. But I believe that writers should be there from the very start, from the very beginning.
Exactly. I totally agree 100%. The
Thank you.
earlier, the better. So you've mentioned that you have your own course, as we
Mm-hmm.
all know.
Yes.
What can people expect from it, apart from, of course, mentoring?
All right. So the course, first of all, they should expect an intensive experience. It's not an easy course, and they should invest a lot of time and efforts in this course. We have many projects that they need to submit. Now, because
Is it homework? Is it like
of
something
course,
they?
yes,
Okay.
so many projects and homeworks, and it's
Okay.
intensive, but it's also a lot of fun. And what they should expect is to have right now the course is 10 weeks. We might extend it a little bit more. They should expect to have a meeting with us every week, which is a mentorship session that is going to cover the last week. It's not a self-paced course, which means that every week there is new module, and in that module they have new assignments and they need to submit it by the end of the week. um, we are sending them feedback for each assignment, and they approve their they like yes, so they do the changes according to our feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Every student gets two mentors, as I said, one writer, one product designer. It starts with much more basic assignments, but then we already start to work on different projects. And the other thing that we have is some kind of career advisory, I would say. So
Awesome.
I'm
Right.
asking my students if they are interested in a UX writing position. And because there are so many people in our community that are
Mm-hmm.
hiring also, and this field is exploding with so much demand right now. So I'm sending to my students all of the new positions that might be relevant for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now because they still don't have experience. First of all, only for the students that like we're doing the match based on the experience of the students, and of course we're not sending to all of the students the same positions. It doesn't work like that. But once there is some kind of a match between one of our students and one of the job offers, we are doing the best as we can to help them during that process until we actually help them to land their first job. And we have some kind of a alumni channel already because
Awesome. Awesome.
we're finishing right now our third course, which means that we have quite of alumni, and even 6 months after the course, they can tell us, "Hey, Facebook approached me. They want to hire me. Do you have some tips?" And our team is very dedicated to our alumni, and we're helping them as much as we can to prosper and to thrive in this new and exciting profession.
So it continues even after finishing the course, which is great.
They still have the content, the materials of the course open, of course, but also they have our full support and direct access to speaking with us and asking for our thoughts and opinions. And right now, I just shared a workshop in Dublin with one of my students from the first course, and we decided to meet in that UX writing workshop. So it's like small and very professional community. Um, and that's about it. I want to say one more thing. Yes. Oh, and few of our students, the one that are doing fantastic work and getting the best projects and are doing really great in the course. So we hire a few of them to be the mentors for our students as well.
Wow, awesome. So it's not just finishing the course, but it's also, hey, do you want to be a mentor yourself? So you've mentioned also that there are two mentors, a designer and
Yes.
someone responsible for content. So do
UX writer.
students also learn how to design during the course, or is it just strictly writing and learning
Um,
how design should go hand in hand with the copy?
So I don't ask them to be great designers, but I do
Mm-hmm.
tell them that I believe that in the collaborative efforts of the product design, writers should know how to work with design tools. They should know how to create small mockups. I think that
Mm-hmm.
the tools that we have today are super simple. They're not complicated as I would say, 7 years ago, we had to
Yep.
slice Photoshop to PNG and export those slices, and we're not there anymore. We have different UI design tools. Um, I'm doing different webinars for students for using Figma, which is a collaborative tool
Mm-hmm.
for designers. But I think that it's not that I think it's like in so many product teams there is adoption for this tool. So I'm teaching the writers how to use this tool so they could be involved in the design process, so they could get inside the mockups and actually write the copy themselves and not having that crazy back and forth of screenshots, Google Docs, Slack messages, but working in the same design tool, so they will have much more
Exactly.
efficiency in their
Uh,
product creation process.
exactly. Pour the words into the wireframe or the ready design themselves.
Right,
So
and
yes.
I don't expect them to be pixel perfect designers, but I do tell them they like I teach them how to work with the different. There's many tools that you can just import different vectors and icons, and basically the web is based on just rectangles and different shapes and drop shadows and different colors, but not more than that. It's pretty flat, so it's not rocket science to let's say um, like redesign every UI of website that is out there. The complicated part is to manage the information architecture and make the flow easy and friendly and intuitive. That's the complicated part. The moving pixel around is the easy part, if you ask me.
Right. So that perfectly transitions to my next question. Should UX designers know how to write? If there's not a single UX writer or even a content writer on the team, who should be responsible for the copy?
So I think that even if there is a UX writer in the team, I would expect the UX designers and product managers and developers to know what is the voice and tone of the product. And if
Mm-hmm.
they need to create copy from some screen, they should create it based on the voice and tone that their UX writer defined for them.
Yep.
There is very common use case by a company named Monday.com
Oh, yeah.
that they defined their voice and tone. They did some exercises. I think that their product manager had to define the voice and tone back then because they didn't hire the writer for that. And they had like 7 rules for voice and tone of Monday, and they just print it and hang it in a poster, like in posters all over the office, so everyone would know how does Monday.com is written.
That's
Okay,
great.
so back to your question, I think that not only the writers should write it, but I do think that it will be very clear who is responsible for the for the for the specific who is responsible at any given moment for the writing of specific scenarios in the product. So
Yep.
they wouldn't miss anything or anything like that. The designer
Yep.
can definitely take that, but it should be clear to everyone that the designer is writing that specific screen, and maybe the writer should go through it. Maybe not. It really depends. You have
Double
also.
check it. Yep. So, well, to me as a UX writer, the tone and voice doc, if you have one, it's
Mhm.
like painting a common vision for how we speak to the customer, which words we should use, whether we say this or that. And once that executed and written down, everyone can simply use it. Just have it handy. And it shouldn't be long. It shouldn't be simple. It shouldn't be a long document with 100 pages on, every detail. Just the basic rules. And it really helps a lot. And I'm really glad to see many companies implementing and writing their own style guides in terms
You
of
know what?
copy.
It's like if the team and it's a small team or a small company and they don't have a UX writer at the moment, so there is so many voice and tone style guide that are open sourced out there. I even created this post, which is a list of content style guides that are open sourced, like the MailChimp content style guide, or which is the most famous one probably, or Shopify's content style guide. So I would recommend or government.uk content style guide, which is pretty good.
Okay.
So I would recommend you just um, before you even structure your own content style guide, see how others are doing it. Maybe understand their ideas and their
Yeah.
way of thinking, or even maybe use their style guide. Like many companies use material design by Google with their visual design, so you can use also the content, the like the content style guide of those companies. It's open source, then everybody can actually use it.
Yeah, take it and follow it. So
Yeah.
why not? And see
Hmm.
if the company also follows their own style guide. So I just read recently
Hmm.
that you will be a speaker at the World Usability Day in Estonia. So do you already know what your speech will be about? And first of all, congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. So I spoke with the team, and they told me that there isn't any awareness for what is UX writing and for on why your team should hire even a UX writer. They don't have anything like that. So it's going to be, by the way, a talk and also a workshop. So we start with half an hour of a talk. One day after, we're going to have a workshop, and it's going to be very basic. The talk is going to be about it's mainly to promote the idea of UX writing and why it's really important to invest in UX writing and bring more writers and content people to your team. And the workshop is going to be about how to work better with writers in your product team. And yeah, it's very exciting. I'm super happy to be there. And the lineup is pretty impressive. So, I really want to meet all of those people already and in person and ask them so many questions. There is people from seniors from Booking over there, and one of the directors of UX of Pipedrive, which is a very cool CRM system. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Awesome. Awesome. That
Yeah,
sounds, yeah. And well, because networking is key, really. Networking can work wonders. So I'm
100%.
just,
Like the community, meeting with people, it's really important to me.
I'm just curious. You didn't mention the workshop. What will be the workshop about? Is it
So the
some,
workshop is
yeah.
going to be about how you can work better with writers in your product teams and how
Oh,
writers
okay.
should have a seat in the table from the very beginning and how to craft copy that guides the users and different. I will probably take different exercises from our
Mm-hmm.
course. We have different workshops that we're doing for different organizations, so we have a lot of materials about that.
Awesome. So just work on practical examples on how to craft copy for ready flows. This is great. This is
Exactly.
great. Yep. So also what I've been wanting to ask you is you provide mentoring and career advice in your course.
Hmm.
Do you get a lot of questions, sort of like how to build a portfolio if you have zero experience, but you really need that and want that UX writer job? Where to start?
Right. So because if you're talking about our students, so our students get different projects to their portfolio, so they're not worried too much about it. They have plenty of stuff to put in their portfolios. Yeah. So like in many other education systems, you just can work first of all on a fake project, okay? Which
Create
is
your own project, create something for yourself, and then present it as a portfolio, right?
yeah, just don't forget to mention that this is not a real project, or was it part of a course or something like that. Um, Many people, like the recruiters today, even not sure what they should expect for when it comes to UX writing portfolio, because to be honest, there aren't many UX writers portfolio out there. So it's really, and I know because I created a list of all of the portfolios I could possibly find, and there wasn't many on that
Yep,
list.
I've seen it.
And yeah, that's about that. So it's enough to have even like not 6 or 7 projects, but even a single project or 2 projects that you're proud of and you're feeling good with them. Um, just write them as a UX case study, talk about the problem that you had, talk about the solution, talk about how you
Yep.
solve it, show before and after, and what did you had to do to communicate that message in a better way, and what was your role, also really important. Build a website. It's not that complicated today in 2019. You can do it with Squarespace, Webflow. Like you can do it without coding, really
Yeah.
easily. Squarespace is the most common example because I've seen many working with that platform. Yeah, and it's pretty simple to set up your case study in one of those.
Yeah.
Don't forget to connect your domain to that website because people sometimes forget, and then the hiring managers look at it as something that is not that professional.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that you can also send attach PDF to a cover letter, and that might work as a portfolio as well. There isn't a rule set for that. Um, yes, the only thing that, like, the only idea is just to show your work and that you know what you're doing, and to have that foot in the door, to have the job interview. And the most important part is to reach that home assignment. So they will send you an home assignment, and then you can show your real skills because that's what really matters, not the, you know, what really matters is that you can deliver to that company exactly what they need. So the home assignment is the most important part. The portfolio is only the foot in the door, so make sure it's aesthetic, it makes sense, and there isn't only one way to do it, but try to do it in the most professional way that you possibly can.
Yep, exactly. And I would also add to that, trying to show the amount of work you've put into, let's say, I don't know, writing copy for one login screen, the many versions you have prepared. That also pictures how much work UX writers put into crafting that final version. Because to some people, it might just seem like, okay, that's just 2 lines of copy. But sometimes behind these 2 lines of copy, there's a lot of work and research and iterations. So,
Exactly.
so yeah,
This is
yeah,
completely is correct. Like you can, it's really important that you would say exactly like not only the final results, but what was your thought process during that in
yeah,
order to get to that result. Because, of course, as you said, uh, our mission is to make it clear as possible, like to make the messaging clear as possible, and we must have also context in the portfolio so we could see exactly what happened there.
exactly. And shifting towards the end of our conversation,
Mm-hmm.
what would be your definition of UX if you were to put it in simple words?
Mm-hmm. I would say um, making intuitive experiences for
That
people.
is beautiful. That is really beautiful. Okay,
Thank you.
well, thank
Yeah,
you for joining us. You were a really great guest. It
thank
was
you so
great
much for
talking to
having me.
you.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. And yeah, check
Thank,
out our article in UXPin. Great stuff.
I will do. Thanks. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to follow us and tune in for the next episode of UXPin Talks. I'm Julia Halenuk, and I was your host.